this, and this is kind of a video I was planning on doing. It's also going to be a response video, not that they will accept it, from Bill and Doug, and what this is going to be of their latest video. If you've seen their latest video, well, a lot of people came on and said, oh, the Bill and Doug that we love and are back, and all of that sort of stuff. And it's kind of depressing to me because it just was. You know, they both apparently now think that No Surrender was a great pay-per-view. And, you know, even the people that I know that liked the pay-per-view didn't call it great. They just thought it was either good or, you know, it's maybe slightly good or something like that I've talked to. But even diehard TNA fans that I know just thought that was such a crappy pay-per-view. But besides that, if you go to, and it will be in my description box, I'm going to put the message board that Moral Virus started up. I started a topic in there which had to do with an article that Dave Metzler did in his latest Wrestling Observer, in which he talked about the problems he saw in pro wrestling, and kind of he talked about some things that Paul Heyman had said, and that some former writers from the WWE had also said, as far as problems he's not just in the WWE but pro wrestling in general. And make no mistake about it, the problems that are within the WWE do represent everything that is wrong with, you know, wrestling in North America outside of Mexico. Mexico doesn't have slightly the same type of problems, because the problems in Mexico are different than they are in the U.S. or even in Japan, because a lot of the same problems that are taking place in the U.S. also are in Japan. There's differences, of course, but there's a lot of the same types of problems when you're talking about what needs to be changed in the industry, probably to that extent. And I would say this: if you're not a subscriber to the Wrestling Observer, I would recommend doing it. Particularly, you know, for those of you who don't know, they've combined with Figure 4 Online and have this kind of super site that has, you know, live audio shows and all sorts of stuff. It's pretty cool. It's $10 a month. It's well worth it, I think. You get a vast array of wrestling knowledge and different opinions, different things on not just wrestling but MMA as well. It's pretty groovy stuff. But that's it. Let me just talk about the stuff that Bill and Doug talked about and what I disagree with them with, since they did the 3 videos. I guess they don't realize they can go more than 10 minutes, because I believe they're still partners. I thought they were still partners. Maybe when TNA pulled the plug on them, they lost the partnership. I don't know. But you know, I will say after watching this video, it seems like the TNA check, you know, showed up, or that this TNA check didn't bounce. I said that once before when they seemingly changed. But let's just start with this. We all know the WWE needs to build young talent. I have said it, just about everybody has said it. It is the biggest fault within the WWE that they've not been building the young talent, not even making the young talent look like they're credible when they're in the ring with the top stars, so that the fans completely see through it. They completely do not believe that the guy has any chance to win, even if that's what they would want to see. It is a huge problem in the WWE. I got news for you. It's a huge problem in TNA as well, because TNA has the exact same problem. There is definitely kind of a have-not and haves within both companies. It's becoming more and more apparent, I think, even in TNA with the current storyline. I'll get to that later, though. I don't know how long this video, I forgot to say, I don't know how long this video is going to be, so if it's very long, I'm sorry, but just kind of the way it's going to be. But, so I don't think pointing that out, hey, they're exactly right. There's no doubt in that. I think everybody knows that. I think everybody sees that as a problem. Particularly, you know, they brought up in the video, they brought up the scramble match, the SmackDown scramble match, and without a doubt, that pretty much showed a lot of the problem. Even that feud showed a lot of the problems within WWE, because no one really believed that any of those guys belonged in the ring with Triple H, because Triple H doesn't make it look like they belong in the ring with Triple H, which is one of the huge problems, because Triple H, Cena's not the only guy that's booked as Superman. So is Triple H, and the fact that they are both booked like that, and you know, the fact that fans don't like it with Cena but like it with Triple H really does send mixed messages. And I think that fans need to wake up and see that, you know, they're both pushed the exact same way, and you know, just kind of the way it is. But some issues that I have with some of the things they said. They said that, you know, Jericho was not was a main eventer and had been a main eventer. That I completely disagree with, because to me, to be a main eventer, that means you must be in main event matches on a consistent level. Chris Jericho has not been, not even with his matches with Shawn Michaels. Yes, he's been in the high-profile matches, but he hasn't been in main event matches. When he won the Undisputed title, that was seen as just kind of like a fluke wow win. And in truth, when he won that, looking back on it, it's pretty evident he was just being built up so that he could be fed like a lamb to Triple H at WrestleMania 18, and that's pretty much it. They said that Cena and Jericho main evented SummerSlam. They were what, the third match from the top of the card, so wasn't even built around them. That pay-per-view was not even built around them. So I would not. Chris Jericho in the WWE's mind, as far as marketability, as far as how he's marketed, is not marketed as a main eventer. He was marketed as a main eventer when he came back. There's no question about that. And then, because of the way he was used, because of backstage stuff, particularly Triple H not agreeing, not thinking he was worth the money that they were paying him, and the fact they paid him so much they had to put him in the main event, and then basically you had, the guy that everyone wanted to see him take on was Triple H, and because of the way Triple H was being used, you couldn't see that, and so he was put into Orton, and because Orton was being pushed as the guy that was going to, the Orton-Triple H feud was being pushed, that kind of fell apart, and Chris Jericho was the odd man out. So, I see what they're saying, but I up until this feud with CM Punk, I would say Chris Jericho was either if he was a main eventer, he was the last guy on that main event ring. But I would say he was more of an upper mid card guy, almost his entire career in the WWE or WWF, and so I wouldn't agree with that whatever. They also stated that TNA uses big superstars to try to bring in casual fans. Problem is, that has not worked. The numbers show that has not worked. The only guy it has worked with was Kurt Angle, and that's only been when he's feuded with Samoa Joe. Those pay-per-views, almost always, with the exception of last year's Bound for Glory, outperform all the other pay-per-views without a doubt. And most of Joe's main event before Joe got the title, almost every single one of those pay-per-views were any pay-per-view Joe main evented on was the highest drawing pay-per-views, even when he was no matter who he was main eventing with, those were seemingly always the top drawing pay-per-views. So that hasn't worked, and the fact that that hasn't worked shows that their philosophy of bringing these guys in and putting them over the young talent has not worked, and it has not worked. It has not worked at all. Like I said, they're right about the WWE not making new stars, but guess what? TNA pulls the same shit. They do. Look at Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal beats Kurt Angle, and then what happens? He's completely, stuck in the mid card in a feud that, he was pretty much in limbo up until they started the whole, Sanjay Dutt thing, which has been completely mishandled. Will both guys come out of it more high profile? Maybe, but I don't think it's done any of their careers any better. I think, if anything, the only person I could see this helping was Sanjay. I don't think anyone's really come out of this very well. So there is that. They also brought up MVP not being, them not being pushed. For those of you who don't know, MVP's in the doghouse for comments he said during a drug test. And they also brought up Brian Kendrick. Kendrick's push is just now starting, and since his push is just now starting, yes, he's been in the WWE for a while, but his push as a single star and up to maybe a main eventer or close to being a main eventer is just now beginning. So I think it's a little early to be writing that off. Let's see. Next, they brought up Kurt Angle leaving the WWE. They always talk about this. I guess they do not know. I guess they have no fathom. And the thing is, so few people call them on this crap. Kurt was basically fired. He was told to leave because He was not getting himself cleaned up, and the WWE did not want another Eddie Guerrero on their hands. They didn't. They didn't want that. So they said, get out. Basically, that is what they said. He was, for all intents and purposes, fired. I wish they would stop with this. Oh, and this one they were like, oh, he tricked Vince McMahon into letting him go. Come on, get off of it. The guy was popping pills, popping far too many pills. You can see it. Look what he looked like just when he joined TNA and what he looks like now. He's lost so much mass. It's not even funny. It is evident. Not only that, he doesn't even look as drugged out as he was, and you can tell that he was drugged out. I mean, it's dauntingly crazy that they keep bringing this up, and there we go. I just don't get it. They also brought up Chris Harris, and they brought up because they were talking about how WWE does not use guys that came up from TNA. They brought up R-Truth, said, well, it's too early to tell. And I agree it's too early to tell, but all indications is they have high hopes for him because they want a strong African-American star. He has a good look. He's got a natural body and a great-looking natural body. That's something he's always had. He's good on the mic. He can rap. They kind of like that as far as the gimmick goes. And so I would expect him to be pushed. It's probably going to, they're not going to push him right away because WWE never does that. They always kind of give, even when guys are over when they first come in, they always kind of give them that slow push. And while I don't necessarily agree with it, I understand it because they want to make sure that a guy isn't just hot for a while. They want to make sure a guy can sustain that for being over for a long stretch of time. So I can understand that. They also brought up Chris Harris. And they are right on Chris Harris. They're absolutely right on Chris. They brought up Chris Harris and the fact that, he was crying about the fact that they basically, destroyed him, that the evil empire destroyed him. And he's actually right because from what I've heard, they basically told him he didn't know how to wrestle when he got to the WWE, and that he basically had to change everything that he knew of what he did in the ring. And, and what it basically did is it basically killed his confidence, and he wasn't the same guy. So, there you go. I also talked about HBK and the fact that if HBK came into TNA, he automatically would be working with the younger guys. How do they know this? I would want to know this. Why would he come to TNA to put over younger guys when he's got the guys that he trained? Okay, Brian Kendrick being one of them. I can't think of the other guy, the guy that he's semi-feuding with Chris Jericho. Anyways, him, I can't think of his name off the top of my head now, and I feel moronic for not remembering. But he's one of his students as well. Of course, most people know that Bryan Danielson is one of his students. Is one of the reasons why he may have gotten a tryout with the WWE. But he has his own students that he would probably want to put over in the WWE instead of just coming to TNA to put over young guys. So there is that. Also, why would the TNA bring in guys, or why would they bring in HBK? When was the last time HBK even worked with a young guy? Who was it? Chris Masters? I mean, the Spirit Squad. Come on, I don't see HBK ever doing anything like that. So I kind of have to disagree with that. They brought up CM Punk. Yes, his he has less credibility than he once did. I would agree because his title reign was a complete joke. They were trying to do the same thing they did with Ray when he won the title, and we all saw that that completely and utterly was moronic and didn't work whatsoever. They said that he has less credibility than most mid-carders, yet he's still getting some of the best pops on Raw. Him and the Orton feud will probably be an extremely hot feud when it starts. It looks like they have very good chemistry together, just on the mic. And I do think that in the ring they will work very, very, very well together. So there is that. They also talked about Sting putting over young talent. Yet he has purposely, and this has been reported just about everywhere, he purposely has changed his promos to basically make himself look better, and what has that done? That has hurt Joe. So how is he helping putting over young talent? He's not. he's putting himself over Joe when what he's supposed to be doing is putting over Joe, and he's not doing that. So I have to completely disagree with them saying that Sting, you know, is making Joe look better, because that is completely horrible. And then you get into the whole fact that Joe's title reign has been a joke. They have booked it horribly. He doesn't look like the dominating champion Joe needs to be. Joe is at his best when he's dominating, not when he's, you know, being a little crybaby. So, blah. And, you know, so I wouldn't go there. Then they brought up the Monday Night Wars, and they said that anyone that actually had, apparently they didn't say had watched the Monday Night Wars. They said if you watch the Monday Night War DVD and if you watch the Shawn Michaels DVD, you would understand this. That TNA is not WCW, that the WWE is WCW, and TNA is what WWE was in the 90s. And I have to completely and utterly disagree with this as someone who watched the Monday Night Wars. WWE right now is WWF from 93 to 96. Same crap is going on that went on from 93 to 96 and almost put them out of business, proving once again, and then most people who followed wrestling for a long time know this, Vince McMahon never learns from history because he's such an egomaniac. He feels like, you know, his ideas will at some point triumph. You know, he was stubborn, didn't realize the business had passed him by during that time, and it almost cost him his business. He doesn't have a strong competitor now to make him do that, but if things don't change, I would say probably in the next 4 to 5 years, yeah, you know, you have to wonder, is there going to be a business for Shane and Stephanie to inherit? Which, you know, always brings up that point of Triple H. You would think Triple H, since he, you know, stands to inherit this business, being married to Stephanie McMahon, would think, you know what, maybe I need to do more to make sure that this business continues and I make it a stronger business by helping putting over younger guys, making guys look better and not pulling off the bullshit that he's doing. Because basically, what he's doing now is the same thing that the Clique did back during this same period, and it's pretty bad. You know, he talked about how, you know, WCW wasn't good in the ring, and I don't know what they're talking about, because just about anyone that remembers the Monday Night Wars knows one thing. WCW, even when WCW was getting close to 2000, their undercards almost always delivered. WWF's, oh, not so much. Their main events always delivered, where WCW's main events almost never delivered because of who you had in those main event slots. You didn't have guys that necessarily could deliver main event matches. And they let their egos get the best of them and all of that. The reason why people say it looks like WCW is because you have bad gimmicks, bad storylines. You have guys who are being pushed over much more talented guys who people can see are talented guys because they're letting the guys go out there and show what they can do in the ring, letting them get over in the ring, but they're not elevating those guys. So I have to completely, utterly disagree with that. They also brought up TNA house shows, and they talked about how TNA house shows always delivered, which is not the case. As of, I would say, the last month of TNA house shows, it has been reported that, you know, the house shows aren't as good as they once were. They also said WWE house shows never deliver, apparently, which is complete BS, because you very seldom, even the worst, you will hear about bad WWE house shows because everyone sometimes put on a bad WWE house shows, but just about everybody knows that WWE puts on a different product at house shows because they know that you put on the house show, and when the TV show comes on, you will draw more people. That's how you start your base. That's how you do a lot of these things. Their house shows are usually pretty good. Okay to good. I would say pretty good, but usually okay to good. Then they brought up, of course, again, the whole, you know, TNA style. WWE needs to change their style. Here's the problem with that. This has been said numerous times by numerous people all over the place. The WWE cannot do TNA style, Ring of Honor style, old ECW style, Lucha Libre style, well, I shouldn't say Lucha Libre style, but you know, Japanese style matches, because they're on the road too much. Guys don't get that break that you do in Japan, or the TNA guys have, or even Ring of Honor guys have. So you can't go out there and put on a match like that. You have to slow things down a little bit. You have to, you know, There's a reason why they don't let guys use pile drivers. There's a reason why they don't let guys use brain busters. There's a reason why they don't let guys do a lot of moves. There's a reason why, you know, Evan Bourne is the only guy that can do a shooting star press. You know, there's a reason for that, and it's because they don't trust a lot of their guys to be able to do those matches with those moves without hurting guys. Because when they did say, okay, just go out there and do what you wanted, a lot of guys got hurt. A lot of guys got hurt to the point of, you know, Steve Austin basically isn't wrestling now because of that. You know, and there's a whole list of guys like that. You've had guys that continually get hurt over the years because of stuff like that. So they scaled the moves back, said you got to be safer in the ring, and so that is why you have that style. But then they brought up the whole, you know, young lions versus the, you know, old guys storyline in TNA right now. It's talking about how great it was. Here's my problem with this storyline. This storyline has this major problem. Basically, right now you have Sting and Kurt Angle taking on AJ, maybe, Joe, Mick Foley, it looks like, and Jeff Jarrett. You have maybe 2 of the young guys out of 6 guys. Well, yeah, out of 6 people, and then you're not talking about Kevin Nash, who will probably be, who supposedly may or may not have signed, no one really knows, coming back. Where are the young guys? Where are the young guys getting a push from the old guys? Where is this happening? Where, I don't see it. All I see is very limited. Then they talked about that everybody knows that the problem within TNA is too many gimmick matches, but in WWE it's the fact that they are using a style that doesn't work, which I don't buy. Most people don't buy, and the fact that they need to create young stars. Here's the problem. I can see WWE creating younger stars before I can see TNA getting rid of the gimmick matches. Look at Bound for Glory itself. Bound for Glory already has 2 gimmick matches added to it. 3 if you want to get technical, but 2 gimmick matches. That this pay-per-view is going to probably be gimmick happy. It's starting to look like, and that's not good. Not good at all. They also talked about Test getting fired because he wasn't good in the ring. Test got fired because he looked like he was he was on roids too much. That's why he got fired. And they said that if you were a bad worker, you were going to get fired in TNA. Well, then why aren't Team 3D, Nash, or Steiner gone from TNA? That's not the truth whatsoever. So I don't know where they were coming with that. Already talked about, you know, Bound for Glory being far too gimmick happy, which it has been. It has been extremely gimmick happy. But to the actual point of me in this video, the problem I see within the WWE TNA as a whole is I think TNA almost has it, but I don't think they're ever going to change their booking. I don't think they are ever going to see that they have to change their booking and that the booking is a huge problem. The storylines aren't believable. People can't get into the storylines or anything like that because they are still feeding off of what the WWE does, and they're trying to be, you know, what WWE was in the Attitude Era. Vince McMahon at least understands that doesn't work, but he's gone even farther back to the late 90s or early 90s trying to see if that would work, and that's not working because the business has passed them by. You go and you watch Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor draws primarily guys in their 20s, late teens through their 20s. Those are the guys that really like Ring of Honor because it's fast-paced. Bill and Doug are right on that part. It's fast-paced, it's hard-hitting, and the match quality is very, very good because you now have MMA. And while MMA has hurt wrestling in some ways, one thing that wrestling can always do is it can do things MMA can't do. If you go and you watch Bryan Danielson versus Tyler Black in this last pay-per-view, you know, there wasn't a lot of things you wouldn't necessarily see in the WWE in that match. Maybe the powerbomb to the corner, that would be the only thing that you would probably not see in the WWE that was in that match. Everything else, to some degree, you would see something very like that. You know, there was slow, there was a lot of mat wrestling, there was a lot of fake MMA stuff going on that worked very well because it was worked in a way that was MMA-ish, but still what people like about MMA in that part. It wasn't, you know, well, let's be too hyper-realistic with the MMA, because people don't want to see that. If people wanted to see that, they would watch MMA. You know, they might want to see MMA moves, but they still want to see it staged, and they still want to see it, you know, where it's exciting to watch. And I think that is one of the big problems. I do think the WWE, you know, I do think they have to look at a way of canceling, of taking their house shows and maybe doing far less house shows and letting guys rest up so that they can do somewhat. I'm not going to say completely what TNA does, because I do think that the too many TNA matches are just go out there and do as many spots as you can and try to get over and not tell a story in the ring. I firmly believe that you look at Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. Why was that match so great? Because it told a story. It told a story. That match was slow and prodding through a whole bunch of it, but it worked because it told a story in the ring. Like I said, Monday Night Wars, WCW actually had a much more fast-paced, much better wrestling style than the WWE did at the time. So even then, even a lot of people go, well, that's not true. But go back and look. The cruiserweights, even in a lot of the undercards matches, those matches were very different from what you'd see in the WWE. And even on Nitro. You know, Nitro had 3 hours. They could let guys go out there 10, 15 minutes and go out there and get themselves over in a match. That's not something WWE has ever really let young talent do. Let's see, what else would I would say as far as what's wrong. But anyways, and also, you know, when you're talking about the WWE, not putting over young talent, not realizing the fact that, you know, they're going to have to start drawing upon an entirely different audience. I think, you know, they're starting to go into Mexico. Well, if they're going to go into Mexico, they're going to have, you know, I don't think a Mexican audience is going to want to see Lucha Libre style. And they don't have enough guys in their roster that can definitely do that. So Bill and Doug are right on that aspect, but they can't do that style under their current system, and they would have to change that system, which I doubt they would be willing to do, because they're not going to want to lose that house show money unless they can find other revenue streams to do that. I think I'm just about everything. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about as far as what I see as wrong. But that is pretty much, you know, WWE definitely needs to do better of elevating their young stars, but so does TNA, and that means actually have guys. Taz is a great example. Taz was exactly what you need more of in both companies. Guys who could take on main eventers, and he believed that he belonged taking on main eventers, and could take on a mid-card guy, and it didn't necessarily look like he was wrestling a guy below him, maybe just a guy that he was better than. You definitely need more guys like that. Anyways, like I said, this is more of a response and more of a big, long-ass rant. Long video, I know, for anyone that got through it. Thank you. I'm out. Later.